Hello, my name is Ako Eyong. I'm a UFIB football coach. Welcome to my channel. On today's edition, we'll be looking at football formations. Just as football has evolved over the years, football formations has also evolved. We've seen coaches and managers have derived so many different formations, but today we're just going to look at a few of them, and with those ones I'll be looking at, we'll pay more attention on the strengths and weaknesses. So we'll be looking at things like the 4-4-2, we'll look things at 4-2-3-1, 4-3-3, and 3-4-2-1. So you just stay tuned while I go through these different football formations. So as I stated earlier, the first formation we're going to look at here will be the 4-4-2 formation. So I'll work with the pink team. I will use the pink team to demonstrate the different formations and to talk on the strength and the weaknesses. So the 4-4-2 formation has been around for a very long time. This formation has been around for only God knows how long. It was very popular in the 80s, in the 90s, and some managers still use it today. It's just as old as the history of nations. So one of the advantages of a 4-4-2 is that it provides that compact defensive shape. If you look at here, we have four defenders, so they stay compact, which is an advantage for any football team. Another advantage is that it provides that sliding mechanism. So let's say, for example, the ball is here, and then we have this winger on the ball. If this left back puts pressure, this number 5 can just slide in, he slide in, he slide in. They are still providing that support here. They are still defending the goal. So that is a huge advantage of a 4-4-2 formation. Another advantage of a 4-4-2 formation is that it gives the team the opportunity to have two strikers. You see that? So in a game, you always have these two players up here, and most managers that play 4-4-2 football will like to go around the opposition, because they will have to use their wingers or to go over them to knock that pass straight to their strikers. And again, another advantage of having two strikers is that these two defenders might be unsure of their defensive responsibilities, who is marking who, especially if these strikers are players that make runs, rotational runs, changing their positions. It becomes a problem to these two defenders on who to mark. That is another advantage of the 4-4-2 formation. A disadvantage of 4-4-2 formation is that they will be overloaded in the midfield. Let's say, for example, you are playing a 4-4-2 formation. In a game scenario, these two will be up here, and then let's say they are playing against a yellow team like the one we've got here, who have 3 players in the midfield. Now that will be this situation where you have 3 in the midfield against 2. Let's say this one's go wide, this goes wide, so now we have just 2 players here having to compete against 3 in the midfield. That is a huge disadvantage of this 4-4-2 formation. Bring this one back here. And then another disadvantage of this formation is that, let's say if they are playing against a withdrawn striker, sometimes these two center backs will be unsure on who to mark this withdrawn striker if he goes deep, because withdrawn strikers, or what people call that first 9, they will always go deep. So sometimes it becomes difficult marking, because these 2 players will be unsure who to mark this first 9 when he goes deep into the midfield. Next, we'll look at the 4-2-3-1 formation. And the advantage of this formation is that it gives you that compact defensive shape because you have four players at the back, just like in the 4-4-2 formation. Another advantage is that secondly, you have two holding midfielders who provide a lot of support to the back four. So if you are a team that has a struggling defense, this is the best formation for you because these two holding midfielders can provide that additional support to your back four. Again, they can provide support in the wide areas and centrally. Thirdly, let's say if you are a team that is good at playing out from the back or a team that wants to play out from the back, your holding midfielders provide additional options for the keeper to play that pass to. Let's say if we have these guys here, they will just drop. Now the keeper has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players to play that pass out from the back. Yeah. And the disadvantage of this formation is that sometimes, okay, before we go to its advantages, another advantage of this formation that I want to talk about, it gives you 3 players in the midfield, it gives you a numerical advantage. Let's say, for example, let's say you're playing against a team that plays 2 in the midfield, like a team that is set up in a 4-4-2 formation. You already have that numerical advantage because you have 3 players in the midfield. And then the disadvantage of this formation is that the opposition might play between your holding midfielders. They can split your holding midfielders, and sometimes these two holding midfielders are unsure who puts pressure in case, let's say this number 10 here, not number 10, let's say we have the striker somewhere here and then he is with the ball. Sometimes these two holding midfielders are unsure who should be putting pressure on that player on the ball. So that is a disadvantage of this formation. And as I said earlier, the opposition can play between them or they can even split these two together. Another disadvantage is that sometimes the distance between them two is too wide. You could have one here, and then we have a massive gap in the midfield. And then another disadvantage of this formation is that the striker could be isolated up front because you have two holding midfielders who most of the time thinks that their job is just to defend. Most of them want to do more defending than attacking, and then you might have your number 10 in a very deep position, and then this guy will end up here all by himself. So it becomes easy for these two center defenders to defend against this isolated striker up here. So the last formation we'll look at here is a 3-4-2-1 formation, as we can see on the board. An advantage of this formation is that if you are a team that plays out from the back, you have additional options. Let's say these players drop in, they drop in. Now you have 5 players to receive those passes from the back to play forward. Secondly, you have more defenders centrally, so it becomes difficult. It becomes so easy to defend against 2 strikers. Let's say if they were playing against this yellow team that plays with 2 strikers, so it will be 3 defenders against these 2 strikers. That's a huge advantage with the back 3 because it gives them that extra defender against a front 2. And another advantage of this formation is that you have 2 holding midfielders who always provide that support to a back three, especially in those central areas. And again, going forward, they have 4 in the midfield, which is a huge numerical advantage against a midfield 3 or a midfield 2. Another advantage of this formation is that it forces the opposition to play around them and not to play through them, because they have 4 players in that midfield area. But its disadvantage of this formation is that they could be exposed in the wide areas. If you look at here, we have this guy here who would have 2 responsibilities: to drive forward and to defend, so they can get exposed in those wide areas because they have more players in the midfield and few players in the wide areas. And the disadvantage is that sometimes playing with a back three becomes too difficult playing against a front three. Let's say you play against a front three where they have 3 players lined up here. It would be a challenge against your back three. So, as I said earlier, every formation has its advantage and its disadvantage. And personally, I do not think that teams win games based on their formation. I believe in hard work. Whatever formation you pick for your team, if your team doesn't work hard, you will not have those results. So yes, formations are good. Coaches pick or set up their teams in a particular way based on so many factors. But again, as I always say, what wins games is hard work, not just the formation.